Hey guys, Tekking here, and I gotta be honest with you right out of the gate. This is gonna be a serious video. I know, but they can't all be fun and games, alright? You knew that from the get-go. Well, maybe you didn't, but you do now. It is just really imperative that we play this entire one as straight as a razor's edge, because we're going to be getting into a lot of different medical terminology and all that stuff, right? So I just want to be taken at least 152% seriously here. For that being the reason, I am going to be doing this entire video dressed as a bona fide, actual medical professional. Okay, yeah. No one can make fun of me now. My backpack has little straps on it. Alright, so I guess to start off, I have here a detailed medical report for a Mr. Monkey D. Luffy. And suffice it to say, it don't look good, guys. Whew! It does not look good. Well, first thing, right here, this is the first red flag. It says right here, he's the main character of this series. That's something that, like, if you were gonna go get health insurance or something, and you're with an agent, and they're asking, pre-existing conditions, are you the main character of your series? And you're like, yeah. I'm like, okay, well, your premium's gonna go through the roof right now. Even if you're a main character in a series that hasn't even started yet. Just like Asta at chapter 1 of Black Clover. He's like, I haven't even done anything yet. He's like, it doesn't matter. You're the main character in a shonen battle manga. We have precedent for this. Like Ichigo Kurosaki, Naruto Uzumaki, Edward Elric, Goku, Toriko. You are gonna get screwed over at some point here. Can you name one main character in a battle shonen manga that doesn't get completely decimated at some point? Okay, Saitama doesn't count. That's not fair. Give me somebody else that doesn't break all of the rules. Okay, now you're just being a troll, but yeah. Fun fact, for that, instead of Natsu there, I was originally going to put Gintoki from Gintama, because I've never read the manga, I've never seen the anime, but I know it's like a gag series, so I just assumed, I'm like, oh yeah, Gintama, I'm sure he never gets in any serious battles or anything like that, and just to make sure, I went on my Twitter last night, and I was like, hey guys, are there any, serious battles in Gintama, where Gintoki's in serious danger of getting injured or dying, or is it just played for yucks the entire way? And people were like, oh no, no, Matt, they just kept telling me, go watch a fight between Gintoki and Takasugi, and I did, and I was like, holy crap, why am I not watching this? This looks incredible. But yeah, that was just an aside. All right, though, let's go down this list though of the medical history here of Luffy, just so we could get a general idea. Alright, so the first thing here, stabbed with various sharp objects, not limited to, including but not limited to, darts, swords, knives, spears, tridents, shark teeth, the common stuff. He got ran through by a poisonous hook at one point. And speaking of poisoned by the following deadly toxins here. We have poison darts, poison hooks, we've already mentioned those. We've also had him consume the deadly poison of the stonefish in the hot sea, something that could even stagger a giant, so that he ate the whole damn thing too. We also have him being poisoned by the blue ring octopus merman. That isn't good, considering how poisonous the blue-ringed octopus here is in our world. Bottom line, if you get, poisoned by that thing, the blue-ring octopus, unless it happens when you're in, the parking lot of a hospital, you're probably not gonna make it. And this is interesting here, to cap off the whole poisons, says here he was also dunked in what can only be described as a giant vat of at least 30 different types of poisons. No idea how you managed to get out of that alive. Let's see, what else? Massive internal damage, huge strain on your heart and your entire circulatory system, really. Blood pressure can get up as high as over 1,000 at certain points. I can think of a few problems with that. Your arteries and your veins are beginning to break down. Massive amounts of bone strain. Your entire skeletal system seems out of whack, too. Seems like you were expanding it and retracting it over and over again. This is a good one. It seems at some point multiple cells just died inside your body, reducing your lifespan by at least 10 years. And, but out of all of that, this is my favorite. Apparently, at some point in this dude's life, magma, just actual magma, like from a volcano, was just dripped on his chest. So, Yeah, man, I don't know. I don't know about this, but I'm gonna prescribe at least 400 pounds of meat a day. Because otherwise, I don't really see you making it till tomorrow. I'm sorry about this knowledge here. Yeah, all right. It is really one of those things, and this isn't even a comprehensive list, but it really is one of those things that you don't think about until you actually sit down and make a list of just how many times Luffy gets jacked up in this series, right? Okay. Now, the thing that really queued me up, the thing that I was really attuned to, back when I was first, reading One Piece on a weekly basis, I started reading One Piece when I was a sophomore in high school, so that was already 10 years ago already. Wow. It was the scene when Luffy gets poisoned by Magellan, and then Ivankov uses his Horo Horo no Mi abilities or his Horm abilities in order to heal Luffy. And he mentions, he's like, this will take 10 years off of your lifespan. And I'm like, oh, wow, 10 years, that's crazy. And then that also made me remember of the time when Luffy was fighting against Rob Lucci in Enies Lobby, and he was using his, second gear and everything, and Lucci's telling him, he's like, well, this technique, you can do it because you're made of rubber. I mean, a normal person's heart would have exploded the second they would even attempted that. You can do it because you're made of rubber, but even so, it doesn't mean you should, because if you keep doing this gear second, gear third shit over and over and over again, that's going to decrease your lifespan too. So it's those two instances that really get brought up in the series, directly, Luffy, if you keep acting this way, if you keep doing these really dangerous moves and everything, and if you just keep jumping headfirst into danger without a thought about what's going to occur, it really is going to shorten your life. You're going to die rather young, and then that's not even including all of this crap, So, yeah, let's talk about Luffy's lifeline, or Luffy's lifespan, all right? Now, look, we've already seen Oda draw Luffy, older. Okay, we've seen him at age 40 and age 60. I guess maybe that's one way you could look at it and say, well, at least he's gonna make it to age 60, because people in One Piece, like a superhuman, they can live a lot longer than ordinary people. Okay, so I'm gonna say, the lifespan, I think Oda came out and said the lifespan for an ordinary person in One Piece can be as much as 130, 140. And then people that are superhuman can live even longer than that. Now, this being the case, Dr. Kureha, she's a superhuman, and she's 141, and she seems perfectly fine. You might say, well, what about someone like Whitebeard? Whitebeard died when he was in his, I think, late 70s. He didn't even make it, barely halfway to 140. How come Whitebeard died so young? He's like, well, you gotta also figure, that he's a pirate, he's a Yonko, he was in a bunch of fights, he never retreated, so he took the full brunt of it. He also contracted a disease at some point, so that lifespan that Oda gave, that 140, it was probably under, perfect conditions, where you're not, in the middle of constant battles, and you don't get any serious life-threatening diseases or anything. I actually read at some point that the human body itself can actually, it's built to live for upwards of close to 200 years. Now, that might just be something that might not be actual information, but most of us don't even get close to that long just because of various factors in our environment, and if we contract diseases and things, that shortens it as well. The things that we drink and eat and put in our bodies and stuff, that can also decrease it. But just going from a structural standpoint, yeah, I mean, if everything works perfectly fine and nothing, gunks it up at some point, we could live for a lot longer than we really could. I think the oldest person on the planet lived to be around 120. I think that's the world record, okay? So yeah, you gotta figure that. Now, with that being said, I was under the impression that Luffy would not live to be 140, or even 100, because you have people like, Roger, who died also relatively young. Roger died when he was in his, he was executed, sure, but he had this, life-threatening, chronic disease, and it was implied that even if he didn't turn himself in, he was gonna die anyway, sometime in his mid-50s. So yeah, he did turn himself into the Marines because he knew what was waiting for him. Death, he's he could either die on his deathbed, surrounded by, I guess, his friends or whatever, and be like, I lived a good life, or he could go out like a boss. This is the king of the pirates we're talking about, so he went out like a boss. So Luffy, I could see him getting to the age of 60. I could see him getting to that age that Oda depicted where he's looking a lot like Garp, but not much beyond that. In fact, I could see him going down the Whitebeard route at that moment, you know, where he's getting into his 60s, maybe up into his 70s, and then he starts developing some illness or something. Kind of like what happened with Aang from Avatar The Last Airbender, because it was implied, it was not implied, it was stated, you know, I think later on during Legend of Korra, that because Aang spent 100 years in that giant iceberg, that greatly shortened his life. So I think Aang passed away when he was only in his, like, late 40s or something like that. So something like that. I don't think it's going to come into play right now, obviously. Like, we're not going to worry about Luffy, you know, I found Raftel! Ugh. Oh man, I'm feeling really, oh man, my heart is starting to really hurt. Yeah, I don't think it's going to be anything like that, not like Goku contracting the heart virus in DBZ, but, you know, we might have a scene where One Piece has like an epilogue, where like One Piece ends, and then the crew finds the One Piece, and then maybe they go their separate ways, they all live out their dreams, you know, Brook reunites with Laboon, all that good stuff, and then we might get an epilogue. And the epilogue is like 100 years in the future or whatever, like way far into the future, where like a new adventure is beginning, and you hear the story about, like, you see Luffy's grave. This is getting very dark, and I'm later on for Halloween in the next 6 days, starting tomorrow, I'm going to be doing the top 6 darkest moments in One Piece, and we're not even there yet, and I'm already talking like, so Luffy, what do you think Luffy's grave would look like? That's an interesting discussion point. But no, it's like Luffy's grave, and it's like, oh yeah, he lived until he was like 68, and he contracted a disease, and his body gave out from all the damage he's incurred. So yeah, let's go through this. Okay, now some of this stuff he might have actually improved on. So let's start off by talking about Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd, because those were the first ones that he did that really, he's being really reckless with his own body, okay? Because as Lucci put it, you know, just because you are capable of doing these things with your rubber body doesn't mean you should. All right, so Gear 2nd is literally just using your legs as like air pumps and getting the blood to just like flow through your body at ridiculous high rates. Luffy's blood pressure while he's doing this is like, I wrote on here like over 1,000, but that's probably not an exaggeration. Like, his blood is probably just, like, scheming around him like a freaking freight train when he does this kind of crap, because he can, you know, move super fast, and all of his punches and kicks are wicked, freaking devastating. So I would imagine, yeah, in a normal person's body, that would just wreck their circulatory system. Like, your veins, your arteries would just explode and just rupture immediately if you were even to attempt to do this. Yeah, don't attempt to do this. Don't attempt to go out to your front yard, hook up an air pump to your leg, and just start... You know, well, Luffy did it. Yeah, so now just because his rubber body was able to withstand that, though, his arteries and his heart itself, I would imagine Luffy's heart is kind of like a squeak toy. I mean, probably, you know, just like a little squeaky toy. So it can, like, contract at an incredible rate, and it doesn't have to worry about getting ruptured, but it could still get worn out. It's still an organ. It's still, like, a very important part of your body, and the fact that it's probably beating, like... You know, probably doing that, probably not a good idea, not a good thing going on there inside of you. So I think Lucci was 100% accurate when he was like, if you keep doing it, and depending on how long you stay in that state, it probably is going to wear on your lifespan a little bit. It actually kind of reminds me... Okay, this isn't a perfect example, because I don't think there's a lot of people in life that have, you know, heart rate quite that fast, but I remember I read once, and I got into an argument with a friend in school once about this. I read once that professional football players, not football as in soccer, professional American football, the kind where you're like, oh, like you're slamming into each other, you know, professional football players, there was a study that was done, and they found that, like, yeah, playing professional football for a long time, yeah, it can reduce your life, you know, because you're literally, I mean, it doesn't take much to understand that. It's just like you're a bunch of big burly guys and you're slamming into each other constantly, and not even just in the actual game, but just training and stuff, all the stuff you put your body through, that's gonna wear on you a little bit in your older age. And I got into an argument once with a kid from school. I think I was like in 7th grade, and I was like, yeah, it did. You can shorten your life if you play football. And he's like, no, it can't. And this is one of the moments that I love when his name was Dave, and he like raised his hand, and the teacher is like, you know, Mr. Corrente, this guy says that if you play professional football, it could shorten your life. And Mr. Corrente, he was the history teacher in my middle school. He was like, yeah, I think it could. I mean, I don't think it would reduce your life by like a ridiculous amount, but yeah, probably doing all that physical activity, it would probably shorten your life a little bit. And then Dave looked back at me and he's like, oh. And he just turned around and was like, yeah, it was verified, yeah. But I would imagine it's something like that. You know, Luffy just using Gear 2nd and Gear 3rd constantly, messing with his internal organs, stretching them out, retracting them, stretching them out, retracting them. Not to mention that while he's doing all this, keep in mind, when Luffy goes into Gear 2nd, he's not doing it just to, like, shake up his soda or, play a joke on somebody like, hey, Usopp, watch this. I'm gonna grab Sanji's soda. Gear 2nd. Here you go, Sanji. When Luffy goes into Gear 2nd, he's in the middle of usually a life or death battle, okay? Or some type of battle, okay? So Gear 2nd, zipping around, punching an opponent. The opponent's punching him back. So getting all those hits constantly also isn't really good for him, really. There was that. Then, of course, the main moment. This is something I can actually back up a little bit with some medical terminology. You thought I was joking about that. No, this is serious right here. Okay, so this is regarding the massive amount of poisoning that happened to Luffy and Impel Down when Magellan just, brewed him up a freaking poison cocktail of just, like, every single kind, like, all these different kinds of poison and just drenched him in it. And he's on the ground, like... And, Ivankov, Inazuma takes him into New Kama Land, and they chain Luffy up to this slab, and Ivankov comes out and is just like, okay, here's the situation we have at hand here. You're gonna die if we leave you alone. There's absolutely no way your body can fight off all those poisons. There's no way your immune system is even close to being strong enough. You are going to die. It's a miracle you lasted this long, really. Now, what I can do is I can use my Devil Fruit ability to basically send your immunity, your immune system, and all of your body's like faculties into overdrive. I can just inject these healing hormones into you, and I can just raise your body's like your capabilities of fighting poisons and like antibodies. I can raise that to an incredibly inhuman level. However, that's only going to increase your chances of survival by like 1 or 2%. Like right now you got 0 chance. All I can do is raise it to 2, maybe 3%. The rest is on you. This process is going to be excruciatingly painful. It's going to last, I think he said, like multiple days at best. And even if you do survive, here's the kicker, even if you do survive this, it's going to shave at least 10 years off your life. So, what do you say? Now, Luffy, granted, he didn't really have much of an option at that point. Not really a lot of choices on the table. Luffy's not sitting there like, okay, well, what are our other options, Doc? Luffy realized it right away. He's like, no, I'm dying, shit. I gotta save Ace. Alright, just do what you gotta do. And he's like, that's what I like to hear. Hee-haw! See you on the other side of hell, straw boy! Okay. And, of course, Luffy, because he has incredibly, high amounts, ungodly willpower and all that, he was able to get through this whole process, I think, in about 20 hours. But during that 20 hours, from what little we've seen, we didn't really see the whole process because he was inside that cell the entire time just screaming bloody murder. But from what we've seen, Luffy was in there chained up and he was just coughing up blood, and his whole body, when he came out, he was all like emaciated and dried out. Like a zombie, right? So what we can assume here is what's happening is that Luffy's body, the cells inside of him, they're breaking down and, regenerating at such a ridiculously high rate that just the human body is not capable of handling, okay? Now, there's a thing called the Hayflick limit. All right, now, all the cells that you have in your body, are only capable, they can divide, and they can, you can heal if you ever get a cut or something. I was playing with my dog the other day. I don't know if you can see it too well, but I got a few scratches all over my hand here and whatnot. You get a cut or something, your body's capable of healing. Your cells will divide, and okay, you're fine. But your cells can only do that a fixed number of times. You just can't keep doing that infinitely. And the older that you get, the longer it takes a cut to heal. All right? So, from what happened with Luffy here, from what we can assume, Ivankov was speeding up that process, having all of the cells, die and regenerate and multiply, to the point where it's like, greatly reduce that Hayflick limit for Luffy. where he used up all of these different cells, regenerating now when he needed it most. So, yeah, when he gets older, it's just going to get to a point where he's going to die a lot younger, where his body just can't hold out anymore. But Luffy managed to survive that. He came out all wrinkled and shriveled up, and then they just shoved a bunch of meat, and he was fine. Now, here's the thing about One Piece that you have to understand, and I think most people get this. Oda does not depict grave, mortal damage in a way that would be like realistic. Now, that's not something that's just on Oda. That happens with a lot of different manga and fictional series. It depends on what kind of series you're talking about here. Like, if you depict it in a really realistic way, then that might slow the story down, or it might not go in the direction you want it to, so you gotta change it. Like, for example, Luffy gets his freaking face kicked in by Sanji during Totland. He loses a tooth. How does he get it back? He just guzzles a bunch of milk, and his tooth just magically grows back. Alright, so obviously Oda's playing some of this up for yucks and just gags, and just like, yeah, he lost a tooth, whatever, glug glug. I'm gonna draw Luffy without a tooth for the rest of the series. Although I thought, Chopper could probably make a false tooth and just pop it into Luffy's mouth. I mean, he probably could have done that. Nobody would have tell the difference, But no, he plays it up like that. Brook is the same way. His bones get all cracked, just drinks a lot of milk, he's fine. I'm sure if Zoro gets seriously injured at some point, he could just drink some sake, he'll be cool. Sanji breaks his leg, just looks at a pair of Nami's boobs, and just, oh, okay, I'm good now, my leg is fine. If Oda actually did that, I'd be fine with it. It would be funny as hell. Like, I think I broke my shin, and he just looks up and sees Nami's rack in front of him as he's looking down, and just crack. Oh, no, we're good. Yeah, we're good. Yeah, I would laugh at that. That'd be funny. You know what series actually does it really well, though? A series that does this kind of stuff, like whenever characters get injured, they treat it like in a way in our world. My Hero Academia. Because, like, I'm doing a video on Tenya Ida coming up for my Hero Academia discussions. If you've never seen those, go check them out, because I'm almost done with that series. But, yeah, there's a moment in My Hero Academia where Tenya gets stabbed in the arm by a villain. And you might be thinking, like, oh, stabbed in the arm. That kind of shit. Luffy literally got melted by magma. Luffy, like Katakuri took out his trident and just, right in his freaking... Luffy's fine. Stabbed in the arm. That's weak sauce. No, they treat it in a really serious way in My Hero Academia, where Ida's like, oh no, my muscles were ripped and shredded, and they're afraid I might not have full movement, and I might have, like, numbness in my arm for the rest of my life. Like, that's a serious concern. Like, if you get stabbed in the arm, kind of like what happened here with Gintoki, if you get stabbed in the arm, that's going to be some serious muscular damage. If it doesn't heal right, you might have, like, numbness for the rest of your life, might not be able to close your arm the right way. They take it really seriously. Then there's the whole thing with Deku's arms in My Hero Academia as well. Like, after breaking his arm like 5 times, the doctor's like, yeah, this keeps happening, you're not gonna be able to move those arms anymore. So, yeah, it's taken, yeah, okay, I like that aspect about that series. I mean, in One Piece, it's taken a little bit loosey-goosey, so that's why I feel like in the actual One Piece manga, it's not going to play that much of a role. That's why rather Oda is, like, adding it on later in his life, okay? Also, you have the whole thing during Marineford, when Luffy was, okay, he just gets healed from his poison, and then he has to go and fight in this massive war, and, Ivankov uses the adrenaline to boost him the first time so he can get out of Impel Down, and then while he's at the war again, he's about to fall down, and he's like, Eva, give me another hit. Come on, give me another dose. And Eva's like, are you insane? I can't do that. Your body will, like, just die. And he's like, I need it. And it's like, okay, if you ask for it, but keep in mind, this isn't going to heal you, and your body's going to be in a real state of pain after this is all done. And he doses him again with adrenaline, and he gets back up, and he does it. And the after effects of that, we really don't get to see too much, though, because Luffy got completely knocked out, after the trauma of seeing Ace, and then he got the magma all over his chest from Akainu. So he was knocked out for like 2 weeks. He was like in a coma after that. So we didn't really get to see the full effects of what would have happened to Luffy on the adrenaline and everything like that. He was in kind of a sorry state right there. And it's a good thing Law was around, because once again, I don't think he would have made it. Yeah, can you imagine Law taking a look at him? Like Law's putting on his like, oh my god, what the hell happened to this guy? You know, his whole hormone system's all out of whack. What did you do to him? But yeah, Law's a surgeon of death, granted, but still a surgeon. He managed to pull through there. Yeah, so, what else here? Well, the plus side here is because Luffy went through so many different kinds of poisonings throughout the story, he's kind of developed a very high immunity to it. His body has developed really strong, fast-acting antibodies for most poisons. When he fought against, oh, I'm forgetting his name at the moment, I don't know why, the, blue-ringed octopus merman. Wow, I can't remember. Oh, Hyozo. There it is. I'm like, why can't I remember his name? Hyozo, when he was fighting him, he poisoned his arm. He, like, pricked his arm. And like I said, the blue-ringed octopus, incredibly potent poison for a human if you get, you know, if you get that stuff gets in you. But Luffy didn't even really feel any effects from it. His arm didn't go numb or anything. Chopper was taking a look at him, you know, dabbing it. It was like, oh my god, Luffy, you've been poisoned. And Luffy's like, oh, poison? Yeah, well, funny story. When I was in Impel Down, I almost died, but I think I'll be alright here. I don't feel that bad. It was worse last time. And so Chopper, I'm assuming Chopper removed the poison as much as he could, but he's like, alright. Here's some bandages, I guess. If you have any problems, just come to me. Now, even though Luffy does have a very high resistance to poisoning, even with the case with Caesar, when Caesar whipped up that poison cloud and Luffy just kind of inhaled it and just, whew, and just shot it out of him like a cartoon character, he's like, I'm good! You know, he can resist that kind of stuff, and if it's like only one type of poison, he'll probably be fine. But when it comes to a large quantity of poison, like with the stonefish, he ate this giant fish that was toxic to humans, and even with a giant, like a small dose of this stuff could take out a giant. Luffy ate the whole damn thing. And if there wasn't a busty pink-haired girl to suck out the poison, once again, even Chopper in that situation, he couldn't do anything about it because you needed very specific, an antidote for that poison, and Chopper didn't have it. So I don't know what the hell they would have done if Reiju didn't show up there. What's the line between good luck and plot armor? Maybe I should make a video about that. Like, the fine line between just really good luck and plot armor. But yeah, that's a good thing for Luffy, though, there. Let's see. Now, the magma thing was pretty bad, but it wasn't a straight-on, like, hit. From the way I can remember this, you know, Jinbei was Buggy was carrying Jinbei was carrying Luffy, and then, you know, Akainu comes flying in, and Jinbei's the one that took the full brunt of it. He took it pretty bad. But then I think it just, like, grazed Luffy, like, you know, Akainu just, you know, just touched the top of it. It's still really hot. It's magma. It's probably easily over 1,000 degrees Fahrenheit, so it just seared the skin right off of his chest there. But it wasn't a straight-on, like, you know, Akainu punches him right through it or something, and not nearly as bad as happened with Jinbei, and certainly not as bad as happened with Ace. Even this scene right here, look at him! He's like, oh, I'm just jumping through a freaking torrent of fire, I'm fine. Granted, that's Ace's fire, but I wonder, could Ace control his fires so it couldn't burn other people? I don't think he could. Luffy is still in danger here. But yeah, so he got a really bad scar from that, but aside from that, he was fine. Yeah, let's see, the shark teeth when he was bitten by, Arlong and Hody as well, and that's something that Luffy even mentions, like, he can't even protect against now. Like, he got bitten by Arlong before he even knew what Haki was. Even after learning Armament Haki, Luffy mentions that it's still not good enough to resist those kind of attacks. I mean, maybe, because that was back in the Fishman Island arc, maybe at this point he has better resistance against it. But yeah, it's stated that, yeah, blunt attacks, I'm good, because Luffy's always had a resistance to blunt attacks, but it's like, if someone comes up to Luffy with a club and hits him right in the face with no Haki, it's gonna be like a bobblehead, or like a cartoon where Luffy's head gets like, you know, that's all that's gonna happen. Now, if someone comes up with Luffy and Haki's up the club and hits him, that would hurt him. So his armament is good enough to negate that. And, you know, the whole, you know, the blows when he was doing with Katakuri, you know, the mochi punches, and he was hitting them, and yeah, Luffy's hand was, like, swelling up, and it was hurting, because Katakuri had really strong Haki, but, you know, he was like, oh, that hurt. But you gotta figure, if Luffy didn't have armament, and Katakuri did that same attack, it probably would have just blown off Luffy's freaking fist right there. It would have been like that scene in Toriko where Toriko's fighting against Tommy Rod and he goes to punch him and Tommy spits out like those exploding eggs and Toriko's fist just gets blown off as he's throwing the punch, but he still keeps throwing the punch and just boom, just lands a hit on Tommy with his like still bleeding stump and just ugh. Oh man, I need to go back and read some Toriko now. That got me into it. Make a mental note. Rewatch Toriko and start watching Gintama. So yeah, there's the situation with his hockey and all that stuff. Let's see, what else? Just stabbed with various sharp objects of variety. The darts, the poison darts that happen with Don Krieg, or poison suction cups if you've watched the 4Kids dub. Those things are pretty dangerous as well. Luffy just got, stabbed with those, and he just kind of, like, pulled them out like it wasn't a big deal. Didn't he get poisoned from those? That is, actually, I don't remember that too well, because if those things were poisoned and he just pulled them out, somebody had to suck out the poison. Maybe it was Don Krieg we're talking about here. Maybe his poisons weren't that great. That actually makes me feel happy because that means that maybe Gin survived at some point. I'm glad I mentioned Gin because in one of the most recent additions to the Vivara card data books, we actually got a wanted poster for Gin. I hope you come back. Okay, here's the new headcanon for this. Don Krieg was just really shitty at making poisons, or he bought, like, really bad bootleg poisons, like, off the black market and stuff. It's just, like, he's like, I'll take 300 million berries for this poison of top quality, and Don Krieg just didn't pay him, and he got, like, real crap. And so, that MH5 poison he used or whatever, it was just shit. And so, that's how Luffy survived getting the darts, and then, yeah, Gin'll be fine. He'll just have, like, a bad cough for a few days, but he'll get over it. I hope he comes back at some point. That's funny. So that was the situation. Oh, also when he defeated Don Krieg had that spiky, like, porcupine shield, and Luffy just punched right through that, so that mangled his hand up a little bit. But yeah, when it comes to getting stabbed, Luffy seems to be pretty okay. I mean, he took a hit from Katakuri's trident, and he was alright from that. Spears, swords, just any random marine with a cutlass, slicing Luffy up a few times. Obviously, Luffy's been shot a whole bunch of times too, but he's made of rubber. So unless it's a Sea Prism Stone bullet or something we're talking about here, then it's gonna just, like, stretch right through him and he bounces it right back. That's kind of one of Luffy's signature moves there. So, yeah, he's been shot, but whoop-de-doo, no one cares. I think that's, like, all the major stuff I got here. I might have forgotten about a few incidents where he gets really injured, but just from the external injuries and the internal injuries he's gotten and, like, the stuff he's doing to his own bodies and the copious amount of poisons that have been put through him, I could see Luffy getting through his adventure, but he's such a carefree guy. He doesn't really think too much about his own well-being. Luffy doesn't really sit down and think a lot of times about, like, well, if I dive head in, I might get injured again, or if I keep using Gear Second, I might get injured and might die sooner. Although, with Gear Second, after the time skip anyway, Luffy has shown to at least be a little bit more proficient at managing it. So instead of using Gear Second throughout his entire body, sometimes Luffy will just use a single limb at a time. Like, he'll just do Gear Second just in his arm alone and then launch, like, Jet Pistol, and then he'll turn it off. So it's like, Gear Second off, and then maybe it'll, like, lessen amount of damage that does to his body in that point, but still, probably gonna wear on him at some point. But don't worry about Luffy kicking the bucket anytime soon, but, yeah, if you really sit down and make a list, it's kind of disconcerting, all the stuff that's happened to him. But, he is made of rubber, and as we all know, ladies and gentlemen, rubber bounces back. So anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I know it's not as goofy as some of the other ones, but I had to take this seriously. I mean, this is just something I had to do. All right, so everybody have a good day. Tekking101 signing out.